What's going on, everyone? Tim from Tier-Fon Orbital. So today we are going to be talking about the Jawas Junkyard High Sun. I'm reaching for it. It's not here. It's on my shelf. The Jawas Junkyard High Sun. So this is the High Sun from Jawas. This hilt is based on Ady Sun'Zee. It's based on that hilt, right? So this has been an interesting project. Leon was kind enough to include me on to be a part of this run, a small part of this run, in that I designed a couple of chassis for it. Now, a couple of years ago, it's almost going on over 2 years, I made, up on my shelf here, I made a Sun'Zee myself, right? This is done with MHS parts, okay? The pillbox up here, this was done in aluminum. I had them printed or cast in aluminum. The pommel I had custom machined and designed to add my own greeblies as well. But I really liked the look of Ady Sun'Zee's hilt. I was thumbing through a lightsaber picture book. Listen, I'm an adult, I know. But I was in a bookstore and I was thumbing through a lightsaber book, the history of lightsabers or something. And I came across this hilt and it just looked very unique to me. And to my knowledge, it had never been done, like production wise. And at the time, we were seeing a lot of scraps come out. We were seeing a lot of speeders. We were seeing a lot of SKs. And I wanted to make something that was a little bit more unique, a little bit more elegant, came from the High Republic. So I made this one. I actually cut this shroud myself. It was a huge pain in the ass. I went through like a number of different, this is a brass or chrome plated brass piping, right? For plumbing, I think. But it was just a pain in the butt. The end result, I really didn't like, right? But I did make a suggestion offhand to Leon a while ago. Hey man, you should make one of these next. It was just a suggestion, right? And Leon, in typical Leon form, just had it, had it designed, and said, hey Tim, we're going to be doing a run on this. So very happy to be a small part of the High Sun run, and I really like the chassis that I came up with for this hilt. I have two chassis, right? So there is a hybrid Brass and MJF Nylon crystal chamber chassis, and there is also an eco chassis, and I want to come into fusion and talk about both of them, right? So we're going to do that right now. Let's come into fusion. All right, so here it is. This is the hybrid crystal chamber reveal chassis. We're going to talk about this one first, okay? So the prototype of this hilt was sent to me a couple of months ago by Leon. He sent me the prototype to get the chassis retrofitted, to make any kind of adjustments that I needed to. And I did notice some concerns with the prototype of the hilt. So Leon did, take those into account. He went back, he changed the design a little bit, and it is a far better version of the hilt that is now going out to folks, right? So I also had to make some changes to my chassis when that happened. So here is the chassis, right? One of the changes that I had to make was this upper section, right? So the internal diameter of the upper part of the hilt did change because I wanted it a little bit more secure. I wanted it a little bit more robust. I wanted the threads to be a little bit more meaty. So that is really the only thing that changed, was this entire upper section. This stem is a little bit longer. But other than that, this chassis is the same as the chassis that I designed for the prototype. Okay, so we've got a brass battery cover here. We've got greebly work on both sides of the chassis. All right, plenty of room for a 28mm speaker. Around back, we've got a Proffie board. This is a Proffie board chassis. Just underneath the Proffie board is our kill switch. So I wanted to do something a little bit more organic with this design, and that was kind of my intention with these like flower petal, chainmail kind of things around the midsection. I had never done anything like this on a model, but I actually really like the way that it came out. I like the way that it prints. It gives it a very interesting, unique look and feel, right? It's got a nice tactile feel. So that is just that decorative midsection. Then coming up top, here is our crystal reveal. Okay, so a little bit of a different crystal chamber for this one. Again, I wanted to keep it, I wanted to try and make it organic. I'm not quite sure that that kind of came out. The lines are a little bit more curved, but I kind of defaulted back to my, industrial, piece of electronics for a lightsaber look. But as far as the crystal chamber is concerned, I'm pretty happy with how that came out. All right. So there's a real quartz in this particular install. And then above that crystal chamber is our 2 rectangular LEDs for some animation, and then some more tube work and greebly work as well. Having the crystal chamber here also gave me a little bit of a challenge, right? So because of the switch placement in this grip, I needed to mount my switch right where this crystal chamber is, okay? So I wanted to design a switch holder, right, to keep it isolated from all of this brass. So that is what this piece is, right? So there is a brass tactile switch that gets mounted here, and this whole thing gets glued into the chassis, or into the crystal chamber itself, right? So that is why that is like that. I did something, there for the Crate Slayer crystal chamber, I did have to mount the tactile switches directly on the brass, and you had to isolate them, and that's fine. But I wanted to figure out a little bit more of an elegant solution as far as switches are concerned, and isolating those leads from that brass. So that is why this is here, okay? And that just gets glued into place. So that is a switch. Single switch setup in this, and then this entire stem gets glued down and epoxied onto that crystal chamber, right? PCB emitters all the way up top. And that's it. That's the hybrid chassis for the High Sun. Let's get a look at the Eco chassis. So the Eco chassis is essentially the same footprint, but I also wanted to carry over that like flower petal, chainmail kind of look onto this chassis. So we've got that here. Again, 28mm speaker, same deal. On this chassis, I added 2 trenches for neopixel strips, right? So there are 2020 neopixel strips. I do have one here to give an example. I installed one. But there are 2020 neopixel strips in here for some extra animation. And then our Proffie board is up top. Kill switches alongside. And then, of course, around back, we've got our switch. Okay. And that's it. A lot of fun doing both of these chassis, but I'm particularly proud of the hybrid chassis and the amount of detail that I was able to get on that one. Okay. So with all that out of the way, let's come up top. All right. So here it is. This is the High Sun, the final production run High Sun from Jawas Junkyard. And this thing is beefy. All right. This is a full steel bodied hilt. With the exception of some of the components up here, there is an aluminum core, I believe. This upper section is a chrome-plated brass shroud, which I really, really like, right? And the reason I like that is because we get this... First of all, we get this brass star up here. This is actually one of my requests from Leon, or for Leon when he was doing this, because we see this in some of the renders and drawings of Ady Sun'Zee's hilt. This like brass etching along the edges. So I really, really wanted to have that on the final version of the hilt, and Leon was able to do that, right? But a very, very hefty hilt, all right? But it is a very good looking hilt. It's a great feeling hilt. It's very well balanced. And I actually really, really, really love the final product. Okay, I wrapped this with dark tan calfskin leather. All right, I think that completes the look. But again, really, really nice looking hilt. So I mentioned that chassis, or both chassis, are meant to slide into the upper part of the hilt. So you can install the entire chassis as a standalone. This is the Eco chassis, by the way. And then the whole thing slides up into the hilt. There is no set screw to secure that chassis in place. So one of the reasons I have these channels in the final design was for some E6000. If you want to E6000 this chassis in place. My buddy Andrew actually also just got his High Sun and installed it with my Eco chassis. And he noticed that these screws in the back do have holes that penetrate all of the way into the inside of the hilt. So he had a great idea to utilize that as a chassis securing method as well. So you can go ahead and do that if you want, to folks that are wanting to install this hilt. I also swapped this out for a dark black hex screw because all of the renders and pictures we see of this hilt, there is a black screw back here. So I swapped that out when I installed mine. Okay, but that is how you can secure the chassis and the hilt. I just thought I wanted to mention, or I wanted to mention that really quickly. Okay, so let's talk about the Eco chassis first. So this obviously is not installed in this hilt, but I wanted to give folks a good look of the final install. Okay, so you've got 2020, the option to put 2020 neopixel strips on this chassis. Okay, if you want. And then this whole thing will slide up into the high sun and be secured with that screw if you want it to. But there's a good look at the Eco chassis, okay, installed. Go ahead and turn that off. But let's get a look at the final hybrid chassis. I'm really, really happy and proud of this chassis, okay? I think this is already... Let me turn it on. Okay. I'm really, really proud of how this one came out. I just love the look of that crystal chamber. And I know I probably sound conceited, but I really like the way that came out. Right, so all of this brass has been weathered. Okay, brass battery cover weathered. All the entire crystal chamber up top has been weathered. I'm going to leave the grip off of this for now. But this is installed. That crystal is lit. There are those two rectangular LEDs. And then we've got our lit PCB emitter up top, okay? All right, well, that's it. Let's come down to come up top. Let's see if we can get a better look at this crystal chamber really quick. Okay. A lot of detail going on up there. And then that brass battery cover, of course. So I'm going to go ahead and put the grip on. Such a good sounding hilt too. Okay. It is hefty, but I do like I like a heavy hilt. It makes it feel like a weapon to me. Okay. Great looking hilt. Okay. Another one of the reasons I like this hilt design is because we get those Graflex pins around front. So there are touches of original trilogy design cues in this, with that, the pillbox and those brass pins in the front. I love it. Love it. Great looking hilt, right? So let's put a blade in it. All right, so this will take, my mic here. This will take a 1-inch blade, right? So you want to go ahead and rest your blade on those PCB pins. I can't talk today. There is a set screw around front that will serve as your blade retention. So go ahead and tighten that when your blade is in, and you are ready to go. I do like choking up on this hilt and holding it in the midsection. Feels a little bit better that way. All right. Let's see what else we put on here. This is my config, my personal config. Ooh. Chunky font. One more.
Prince Arkham.
Great sounding hilt, man. I don't know if it's the way that this pommel is designed or the steel, but just the resonance. Really, really deep bass.
Dissonance.
There's dissonance. Aggressive. One more. Oops.
Old Republic.
I think this is from BK Saber Fonts. I think. Could be wrong. One more.
Ancient integration.
I think I did that one already. One more.
Prince Arkham.
think that's all the fonts. All right. One more look at that. High Sun from Jawas. Okay. And I'm going to repeat myself. That is the High Sun from Jawas Junkyard. So really, really fortunate to be a very small part of this run. Let's get another look at that shroud. That's that sun star pattern up top. Such a cool looking pattern on that shroud. Yeah, so just very grateful to be a small part of this run. If anyone has any questions about this chassis or both of these chassis, please do not be a stranger. I have added the Eco chassis as well as the hybrid chassis to my online web store. If anyone is interested, I will also link that below. So if anyone has any questions about that, please do not be a stranger. And with that being said, may the force be with you always. Have a good one, everybody.